My younger self, what's your story?
To my younger self, what's your story?
To my younger self.
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 To my younger self, what's your story? To my younger self, what's your story?
Well, hello there and good morning. Good morning. How is everybody doing? It is so wonderful to see you. Of course, my name is ZoeBaraka. Literally, I was about to say my name is to my younger self, which, may be true. I don't know. But I hope everyone is doing well. You're watching us on Facebook, on the Hope Mongers community, on LinkedIn, and on YouTube. We greet you. We greet you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today is kind of one of the days that is just family, right? We're just kind of hanging out and chilling. And I'm going to tell you why in a minute. Once again, my name is ZoeBaraka. The show is To My Younger Self, where we tell stories from the past that will propel us into the future. Listen, where are you watching us from? I truly do hope you slept well. I just greeted you in Hausa and also in Kasal. Kasal is my father tongue, so I'm always excited to speak it. And so much to you. I just greeted you in Wale or Dagbani, just saying good morning to you. Indina o Wezo Leke, are you well? It is wonderful to see you. If you speak Ebe, I just greeted you. I'm so thankful that you're here. To say Akwaba. I want to say, Yamawachi, we greet you, we greet you. I hope you slept well. I just greeted you in some different variations of the Akan language. Sawubonani to you. If you speak Zulu, I greet you, I greet you. Ibella to you, Ibiokibari to you. Do you speak Moshi? Thank you so much for joining us. It is wonderful to see you. Te Oyo Tang, Ojeko to you. If you speak Ga, I am greeting you. Lale to you. If you speak Chadian Arabic, thank you so much for joining us. Intiomafe to you. How are you? I'm still speaking Chadian Arabic to you. Salam alaikum. How are you? If you speak Arabic, of course, Ekaro to you and Ekabo to you. If you speak Yoruba, our Nigerian friends, how are you? It is wonderful to see you. Nagadef to you. If you speak Wolof, Jambo, Habari Gani, Habari Yawasubwe. It is wonderful to see you. Karibu sana. How are you doing? I just greeted you in Swahili. Thank you so much for joining us. Katong to you, Amohelang to you. If you speak Sesotho, what a wonderful time just seeing you this morning. Thank you so much. Nyase Aloy Damilake. It is wonderful to see you. If you speak Bisa of the people of Burkina Faso, it's wonderful to see you. Kotuli to you. If you speak Fofoldi, how are you doing? All of our Fulani friends, it's wonderful to see you. Of course, Bomdea to you. If you speak Portuguese, bonjour, buongiorno. Buenos dias, Imaraba. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Listen, if you just joined us, do us a big, big favor. Go into the comment section. One, I want you to greet me personally because why won't you, right? I mean, look at my face. But second, I want you to share, okay? Just click on the share button and invite your friends and tell them it's To My Younger Self. We are live. I know a lot of you are getting ready to go to work. A lot of you are driving. A lot of you are probably in meetings, and so on and so forth. But, share anyway because you never know, what somebody might get from this, right? Because storytelling is truly that powerful. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, today, Yes, Ndino, it is wonderful to see you. It is wonderful, wonderful to see you. Um, oh, thank you so much, Jane. It is wonderful to see you from London. Wonderful, wonderful. Listen, do not just hug all of this goodness for yourself. Share, share, share. Now, my co-author and I, for all of you that joined us last week, Saturday, you know that ZoeBaraka and Cato Andah went out and did a thing. We wrote a book. Ah! The excitement is so real. I cannot believe I'm holding it in my hand and I can see my picture and Abba's picture and all these incredible people that were on, just so graciously were invited, and they all said yes. It's just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Anyway, I'm going to introduce you to Abba Cato Andah, a very, very dear, dear friend and sister, mentor. I don't know how to describe her. There's just so many words that I can't pick and choose. But we co-authored a book, or we collaborated on a book. And a lot of you who join me onto my younger self every Tuesday morning kind of know who I am. I'm a storyteller. I like to curate African stories. And of course, now I am the co-author of Letters of Hope to My Younger Self. And so on Saturday, when we were launching the book, a lot of you guys had incredible questions, but things were running so fast, we did not have time to answer your questions. So this is us taking you behind the scenes and answering those questions, especially for you. This is how much we love you. You know what I mean? So thank you so much for joining us. Let me read, like I always do. I always read from the back of the book about the author, right? So I'm going to read to you about Abba Cato Andah, for those of you who do not know her. For shame. One, why don't you? Right? But just in case you don't, Abba Cato Andah, MBA, MA, LMHC, please ask her what all of that means when she's here. Is a psychotherapist, transformational speaker, and fervent mental health advocate, widely known as the Hope Monger. She is the celebrated author of the bestseller Reflections of a Hope Monger and the captivating voice behind the Hope Mongers podcast. Driven by a heartfelt mission to promote mental, emotional, and spiritual well being, Abba works tirelessly. Listen, this word tirelessly is an underused word in this particular sentence. She really does work relentlessly um, to educate, inspire, and uplift people to fully embrace the extraordinary power of hope in their lives. Besides her professional accomplishments, Abba cherishes her roles as a wife, mother, and grandmother, and a sister, and a friend, and a mentor, and a cheerleader. She lives in Central Florida, USA, with her family. Now, I'm one of the very lucky few. I've gotten to not only meet her, but I've also met her family. So I know these roles are not just pulled out of thin air. She truly does embody all of these roles. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let me introduce you to the one and the only Abba Cato Andah. Oh my God. We are here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you really well. God,
Oh, fantastic.
talking about me.
I am always talking about you, sis,
Oh my
every
goodness.
single time. I'm always talking about you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
This
Thank
is,
you,
you
my
would be the
darling.
highest, you're holding the medal for the person who's appeared on the show the most. I think you're probably going on your fifth one now, or is it the fourth?
It must be because we did the Brewing Hope shows. That was part of it. And then I
In
have
that case, dang girl, you've been on here for like
launches, we've
7 years.
done book clubs. Girl, go count again. I'm sure I'm approaching
I think you've been here for like
8.
five, no, I think 8 times. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it does not feel like that. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you. After 8 times, it's home to me.
I
So
know, right? This is it. And especially when you write a book that has the title of the show in it, It looks like you live here.
Exactly, exactly. Congratulations on,
And congratulations to
on
you.
this
My
amazing.
goodness, can I see your body of work? Because I think I have mine here.
Here's my body of work. Our body of work. There you go.
Oh my goodness. Wow. How do you feel? First of all, let's start there.
I feel relieved. I
Mm,
feel relieved, um, and I feel challenged. And I'll tell you why.
mm,
This weekend, I got the acute sense, and I thought it was probably when we were praying, because for those of you who watched the launch, you'd have
mhm.
heard that Zoe actually um, came quietly to Florida, and that's the first time we met, right? The day before the
Yes.
virtual book launch.
Mhm,
Anyway, so we spent an amazing weekend together. And Monday we were praying, and I got the acute sense of this does feel like giving birth, right? You're giving
mhm,
birth to a child. But having
mm,
raised, two children who are now adults, I also got the sense that, it's pretty heroic and it's a huge, feat to bring
mm,
a child to the world.
mm,
But then it's another challenge, right? To raise the child to maximize, his or her potential.
mm,
And so that's where I'm feeling challenged. So I'm feeling relief, gratefulness that we're able to bring this book to the market, but also the challenge of, okay, now it's a cute concept, nice videos, but how can we push this book to really impact? That's my
mm,
challenge now,
mm,
because I know that this was inspired by God. I know
mm,
that we are both led to do this. I know
mm,
that hours we put into this. I know that hours our collaborators put into this. And it's really my heart now to see this book impact people in this generation and beyond. So that's my
mm.
challenged.
Oh my God. It's so weird sitting on this side because now I get to ask you all the questions, right? And I'm thinking, this is true. It's a relief because it's the daily grind of us rushing to meet every day for 2 hours. We've been doing this for the last year and a half. It's the daily trying to find a particular word that quite fits what we're trying to say, doing all these, what's the synonym of this? And what's the, and this is of that. And do you think this is the meaning? Oh my God, we went through so much with that. And
Yes.
suddenly realizing we don't have to do that anymore.
Mhm.
One, just that thought is a relief. But secondly, the fact that we we actually did it.
We did it.
It was
You
slow, slow,
definitely you
slow.
should pause to take that in, right?
I
To
haven't.
really
Yes, I haven't paused at all to take it in like, we actually did it. We we set out to do the thing. I remember the first meeting like it was yesterday. I remember it so well. I know exactly where I was sitting. I was still in New York. I even remember what I was wearing. And I remember who was on the Zoom with us when
Mhm.
we started this. I remember the first letter we got in and how we were saying to ourselves, oh my God, this is such a powerful letter. And talking to, our very, very first guest, it's just all so surreal. It felt like it happened yesterday,
Mhm.
but it happened not only a year and a half ago, it's happened 39 times. Actually, no, maybe 35 times because there was a few of them that actually didn't sit for the interview, right? But it happened over 30 times.
Yeah.
How crazy is that? So for me, that's it. And of course, your sentiment that we definitely we definitely um, 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 have given birth to something, a child. But now the real challenge happens. The child would need changing, the child would need a diaper, would need feeding, would need all of that. And when they grow up, we're trying to figure out what's your purpose and all that. But I think, at least for us, we already have figured out what the purpose of this baby is. We just need to maximize that potential. So here's my question for you. Actually, this is a question that was in the comments from Saturday. what is this book actually about? And I am so glad that I am not going to answer it, but
Oh, you
you are.
answering with me. Don't make no bones about it. You are answering with me.
I
I'm,
am. Of course I am. We
I'm
are
not.
collaborators. I'm going to answer. But
Yes,
truly, though,
yeah. You're
what is
interviewing
this book?
yourself.
I know. What is this book truly about?
Yeah, and I apologize for the background noise, but my household is getting ready to leave home. So,
Oh, I actually, do we hear that, guys?
oh well, hopefully you don't.
I know it's very, very early all around the world. Well, where we are, but where is everyone? Can you guys reach out to people and tell them we're on? Please just invite your friends and tell them two pretty, amazing, beautiful women are online right now, and we're just spilling the tea. So come on in, right? But yeah, go ahead and answer the question.
Okay, so what is this book about? So, the purpose, first of all, is to inspire, to motivate, to help people step into the best version of themselves.
Mm,
That's what I'm about. And I know,
mhm,
Zoe, that's what you're about. And I think that's where our purposes are aligned, right?
mhm. Yes.
Um, and so, the way we chose to do it is that we came from two different platforms that had a lot of synergy.
Mhm.
For me, I have a book called Reflections of a Hope Monger, and I've been
Yes.
talking about hope, hope,
Mhm,
hope relentlessly for the last 3 years.
mhm,
The point of hope being not just an optimistic feeling, but I've been talking about hope from the psychological definition of hope, which is hope is the belief that tomorrow can be better than today and
mhm,
that I have a role to play in it.
mhm,
So we figured, okay, learning actually comes best when we share stories. There's something powerful about stories. Stories actually hit you in the heart more than if I told you, here are 3 steps to becoming successful.
mhm,
You'll tune out, right? But if I share a story with what I went through, how I felt, how I did it, it resonates and it sticks with you. So both of us being storytellers, and it's funny. And I think probably the first thing that connected me to you was you talking about your being a storyteller.
mhm,
The first chapter of my first book, Reflections of a Hope Monger, says it's called Storyteller. And there's
mhm,
actually an amazing song called Storyteller by Morgan Harper Nichols. I think I listened to it every day while I
mhm,
was writing my first book.
mhm.
So, being storytellers, naturally, we were going to go about this by telling stories. So, what did we do? We decided to recruit some amazing, successful people. Now,
Mhm,
what is success? There's different
mhm,
definitions of success, okay? But we chose success as being defined as people who were living according to their purpose,
mhm,
people who were actually achieving their goals, people who had, made a mark in their communities and were in positions of authority and had a following. People listened to them. We figured let's bring in a group of these people of different ages, of different professions, because in the group of these many witnesses, people will receive their truth.
mhm,
So
mhm,
we made a long list, right? A
mhm.
long, like to quote for the Campbell, a list as long as my arm,
Yes, so
right?
long.
Interview. We made a
Mm,
long list of people we'd love to see, and we began to reach out. You know, some of them we didn't know, some we knew through social media, and they had followed our work, and so they were already bought into our vision.
mhm,
Some we had to ask someone to kind of reach out for us. But we started this thing not being sure of how many people we'd actually get.
mhm,
We thought, okay, if we get 15, that's enough to write a nice book.
mhm,
So we
mhm,
reached out and we reached out, and it was hard work. And we reached out and we used friends and we asked again, and we were tenacious. Sometimes we were blown off, but we
mhm.
kept pushing because we felt so convicted, and ended up with 38 people initially.
Yes,
And that 38 only because you said to me, Abba, it's enough. There's so
I did. I put a stop to it because I figured, oh my God, we're never going to stop if
yeah.
we keep going. We needed a hard stop.
Yes.
And then somehow the 39th person so very powerfully kind of snuck in. But that was a good
Stuck in
thing.
as well.
That
Yes.
was a very good thing.
Yes.
That
So
is so
our
powerful.
intent then was to glean their life wisdom, to
Mhm.
literally get it and package it. And I
Mhm.
like how Uncle Ben Dochimalo
Mhm.
describes our process. He has an analogy. We're
Yes.
like mine managers,
Mhm. Mhm.
gleaning the
Mhm.
gems, precious
Mhm.
gems, right, from the stories we were told. So we
Yes.
reached out to these people and we gave them like a paragraph, right, was their prompts. And we said, think about a time in your life when you faced a crossroads, when you had an obstacle, perhaps when you encountered failure, right? And knowing now what you know about life, write a letter to your younger self to encourage them. And then we said, and we didn't want them to write, we didn't want to stress them out. So we said,
Mhm.
write between 300 and 400 words. And they came back with their letters. Again, there was such a diversity of the letters. Some were
Mhm.
more succinct, some wrote longer letters, each one special.
Mhm.
And so even though we had a formula, we also recognized the need to allow every chapter to kind of be customized, right?
Mhm. To
To
the person.
the
Yeah.
person. And so there were some people like Dr. Victor Bampo, where we literally wrote just a couple of lines because
Mhm.
he wrote like a preamble.
To the letter. Yes.
So it
Mhm.
was so complete as a story in itself. You
Mhm.
know, there were others too where in the interview, because that was the other thing. When they brought in their letters, we then said, come in for an interview because there were
Mhm.
some things we needed to clarify. And then for me, one thing we had said, early on in the process was we could easily have compiled just the letters,
Mhm.
say letters of hope to my younger self. We wanted to add extra value, right? We wanted to also hear them talk, clarify certain things, and then also pick out extra gems, which is what
Mhm.
we did. So once they were done with their letters, we then scheduled interviews and we said, come in for 20 minutes. Guess what? You know this.
20 minutes.
The interviews went on, each one for like an hour, because a story would lead to another. And
Mhm.
the therapist in me probed. Sometimes I'd ask questions that were quite uncomfortable,
Yes.
but I have to say, I give so many props to our contributors.
Contributors. My goodness.
They were so gracious.
And
And they
open and
thought,
ready.
yes,
Yes.
and they spoke and they were
Mhm.
honest. you know
Mhm.
and because of that, we were so incredibly touched by the process. I think we
Yeah.
left every interview with goosebumps, just
Yeah.
saying, wow.
The funny thing, though, Abba, was, and I think you would bear me out in this, in those interviews, they would always hit something that either you or I was going through in that particular time, which
Yeah.
was so surreal for me. It's almost as though they came to open themselves up, but in that process, they were also God's messengers, right?
Mhm,
And so when they would leave, we would go, "Oh my God, did the person know this?
mhm,
That I am going through this?" Because
mhm,
I needed to hear that just
mhm,
in the interviews. Many times I know it happened for me, so that in itself was just a very powerful thing. And I think at some point we'll bring you guys along because we have hours and hours and hours of footage, of course not the entire interview, but bits and pieces, just so you see
the
what the,
wisdom and
the
the magic.
wisdom,
Was
yes, that we
alchemy, I
really.
think, was the word we used the other day when we are talking.
Mhm.
Something special happened, even in
Yes,
relationship with these people, and we
yes,
get to see their different
yes,
personalities. you know
yes,
for
yes.
example, Lucy Quist, even in the interview process, the first time we had it booked, she'd had a pretty significant life event happen,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
she showed up to say, you know
She
what,
did. The woman did.
believe
Mm,
in your process. I respect your process, but
mhm,
something has just happened. She lost a family member,
mhm.
and so I can't meet today. And we were
But
so
she
touched.
showed up.
Yes.
That's the point. She did show up.
And
Yeah.
there was somebody like Cynthia Kwaku, who was the
Mhm,
first interview we did. We didn't know her. She
mhm.
was somebody I literally messaged her. She was like, of course I'll do it. And we had this amazing interview. And she shared her dreams and plans for the future, and
Mhm,
including writing her own memoirs and
mhm,
things she wanted to do. I really hope we have a way to actually package that particular video to
mhm.
6 children.
Yes, I
Maybe
absolutely agree.
take her dream and push it forward.
Push it forward.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
truly do believe that. That is so powerful. Now, the other thing I was thinking about though was even in this process, and it not that it seemed these are our contributors. They were at the top of their game. All of them still are at the top of their game, doing what they're doing. Some of them are retired, but even in retirement, are still at the top of their game. The thing is, they hadn't stopped. Their stories wasn't ended. Some of
No.
them were still going through things, right?
Yes.
So it wasn't at the cusp of success as you would think. Some of them were still struggling with some things, were going through some things. They were still in some of the stories that they were sharing. Even in the letters, some of them were still in there to show you that there is no penultimate success like I have arrived.
Yeah.
Even in your arrival, there's still a beginning. If there's anything I took away from that, from this entire process, it was that I would look at these contributors with such awe and such admiration, but also realizing that even in that state, they were still on a journey. They were still going through. They were trudging
Absolutely.
on, and they were in the throes of a story that was unfolding and refolding. That is
And they were still reinventing themselves. They were still,
reinventing themselves,
again,
reinventing.
what we
Yes.
see was these people had growth mindsets. They were not
Mhm,
stagnant.
mhm,
They
mhm,
were continuing to evolve and grow. And I
mhm,
think, yes, life happens on life's terms. But
mhm,
for each and every one of these people, what we noticed is that they had something called grit.
mhm,
So what is grit? Grit is actually a psychological term. There's actually a TED talk about it, and
mhm,
the psychologist called, or the social scientist, I think, called Angela Duckworth. She
mhm,
says grit is the passion and the perseverance to push through challenges, setbacks, and failures
mhm,
with determination, with resilience, and with a
mhm,
strong work ethic. That's
mhm.
what we kept seeing each and every time.
Each and every time, every single time.
Another interesting thing is that the younger self that came up for them, right, in many of their letters was that cusp of transformation into greatness.
Mhm,
They probably
mhm.
faced their biggest challenge in their younger lives, but
Yes.
the learnings they got propelled them through, right,
Yeah.
to do
Mhm.
well. It was a
To do that.
really just eye-opening, awesome experience.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm, mhm. And I think it just begs the question or the thought. Every one of us must sit down with ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
have a conversation with ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and write a letter to ourselves. It doesn't
Absolutely.
even have to be a letter of, hope or apology or whatever. It can be a the girl is tired, so please just pardon me. My words are slurring. It can be a congratulatory message. Like, listen, you were this many years old and you did this amazing thing. Good on you for doing it. You're cheering yourself on. You know what I mean? Which kind of dovetails into this question, Abba. Um, why did we have people write letters to their younger selves and not to their future selves? Because I know I've been asked that question many, many times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And writing to your future self is a great exercise as well, because it's
Hmm.
allowing you to step into the vision that
Right.
you are dreaming of. And so
Hmm.
that's a really powerful exercise as well.
Hmm.
Writing to your younger self also has its many benefits, because you
Hmm.
see, you are the same person inside as you
Hmm.
are now.
Yes.
So what you see is in me is a woman who is 50 something years old.
Hmm.
Inside of me, I'm still 19, 24 sometimes. There are parts of ourselves that are just evergreen.
Hmm.
They are young, they stay the same. And particularly when we've gone through things, those parts of us kind of almost, the brain in an effort to almost protect itself, those parts kind of stay and go through situations in life to almost heal those parts of us that went through whatever they went through when we're young.
Hmm.
So let me explain that some more. As a therapist, I understand that if anybody look back on your life, you recognize that you go through the same similar patterns and things. The situations may be different, but the patterns are the same.
Hmm.
It's because the purpose of life is actually to actualize yourself.
Right.
and to heal that part of yourself, or to learn to deal with a trigger or a stress in a different way.
Mm.
When you do that, you move to the next step. But until you do that, you're going to experience the same patterns. So
Oh,
therefore, understanding what your younger self went through, whatever younger self shows up for you, and telling them hope, wisdom, you're actually telling yourself in whatever situation you are going through.
mm,
And that's why we had one of our contributors one day sent a message. You know what? I read my letter again and it encouraged me today. And this
yes.
letter was what? Maybe 20, 25 years
Indeed.
prior.
Yes. Hmm. Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So the situations don't change in that sense, that because of course life comes at us.
Hmm.
Talking to your younger self invariably is informing you
Mhm.
in whatever situation you are in today.
Mhm.
It's a
Mhm.
really, really powerful exercise.
Mhm.
And that's
Mhm.
why people said, wow, this is cathartic.
Mhm.
Wow, this is cathartic. Because
Yes.
it brings you back to the core of yourself.
Wow. You know, yesterday, just thinking about this other part, I was on some kind of an event for uh, people of African descent, and we're doing like a little just tete-a-tete, really, mainly from Jamaica. One of them had asked a question about the African situation, and what are we doing to change the narrative? And it just occurred to me, this is it. This is what we should do to change the narrative. That we're writing our own stories. We're putting them in books, most importantly, books. Videos are great and movies are great, and even music is great. I mean, Africa has so much music, is ridiculous. All of those are wonderful. But to be the keepers of history and the griots of the things that have happened, we must tell our stories in book form, in storytelling form. We are great orators, Africans. We are great orators. But the thing is that oration loses some authenticity as it's being passed down, right? So one person can use one word that would change the entire meaning of the story. But if it's written down, it's set, it's right there.
It's engraved, right?
It's engraved. You remember the details that much, right? There's a precision to it, and there is an authenticity to it. And that's why the story of Anansi, for example, because it's an oration, there's just so many different facets of the Anansi story, or even who Anansi is,
Yeah.
right? Because of oration. And so for me, this is why we write letters and we tell stories to our younger selves. Because again, you cannot know where you're going if you haven't looked back to see where you came from. It's absolutely impossible. You cannot know who you
It's
are now.
true. It's
Yeah.
funny because as you are talking, I'm thinking about my son, Archie. His name is actually Achampong,
Mhm.
named after my father-in-law.
Mm.
It's a family name, you know. Um, but I've heard two different definitions of that name. I'm not sure
Mm.
which is which.
Mm.
And of course, probably at some point, both of them factor into the name.
Right.
I think
Mhm.
you're right. When we tell stories and
Mhm.
so on, change happens because people's perspectives may differ, people may present it in a different way, and
Yes.
reflection can change the meaning of something,
Yes.
and so
Yes.
engraving and preserving it is so important. And we even saw this from our interview on Sunday on
Mhm.
FF, where
Yes.
DJ Ekofisho, who's one of our contributors, and in his case, he was so busy. This is where we were end up being flexible that we said, okay, write a letter, we'll interview you, and we'll
Mhm.
take your messages for
Mhm.
this letter. He'd been so busy. He gave us an amazing interview, but he
Totally forgot about what he wrote. He gave.
said,
Yes.
and so here it is. It's engraved. It's there for his children to read because there
Yes.
was so much wisdom.
Mhm.
And I think that's another thing we're trying to also encourage among the different things we are doing. Encourage people, share your stories with your
Yes.
loved ones,
Mhm.
share your stories, download your wisdom.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be a perfect story. In fact, it shouldn't be a perfect story.
It cannot be a perfect story, honestly.
It's the imperfect, gritty stories of
Mhm.
struggle, of failure, of discouragement, and how you turn it around that
Mhm.
actually people learn from and identify with.
Mhm.
You
You
know?
know, it's so interesting. You just talked about Archie. And for as long as I've known you, in my mind's eye, I have always been spelling Archie like Archibald, just shortened.
Mm,
And
mm,
I'm sure a lot of people have done that, where
mm,
we're actually spelling it Archie,
mm,
Archie, or
mm,
Chy,
mm,
Archie, short for
mm,
Archibald.
mm, mm.
That in itself is a story, because imagine, uh, this is a rabbit hole we probably shouldn't go down, but do you see what I'm saying? That the
Do.
oral stories are just so dicey that
Yeah.
I think the way forward for Africans is literally to put our own stories down. We ourselves telling our stories. Um,
Because it impacts. And going back to my son Archie, he's
mhm,
a champon named after his grandfather. And
mhm,
his grandfather was he named after somebody who was kind to his family? Now I forget the two different interpretations, but we basically told Archie that the name Achampong, as we were told it in this family, meant a faithful friend.
mhm,
And Archie is such an awesome friend.
mhm.
He
Look at
is
that.
loyal like you cannot believe.
Mm,
And
mm,
and and that favor carries him into what he does in his day job.
mhm,
You
mhm,
know, he just connects with people, and I can see his clients truly trust him, and actually they latch onto him as a friend. It's just
mhm,
a part of him. You know, so even being told that story, your name means a faithful friend. So guess what? He's impacting the world, right? Through that lens.
mm.
So
What's in a name? My
what's
goodness, that
name?
alone.
Again, it's about the story.
Yes,
You
yes.
know,
Wow,
the story
wow.
behind something. People, facts and figures, are easy to forget. Story,
Mhm,
last a whole lot longer.
mhm.
Capturing them on paper immortalizes them.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Wow, powerful. Guys, I see you all, and I see the numbers are gradually increasing. Please, when you come in, let us know you are in on the conversation. Let us know your thoughts. For those of you on Facebook, on To My Younger Self, on the Hope Mongers community on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on To My Younger Self, and also on YouTube on To My Younger Self, please say something. Don't just, let's have a dialogue. Just comment, say something, greet us in your local dialect. We want to hear from you. This is another part of telling stories and immortalizing these stories, because you're being a part of it, right? So we do please want to hear from you. Tell us your name, tell us where you're watching from, and all that stuff. Right? Thank you so much, Auntie Doris. I see you. It does not have to be a perfect story. This is true, and nobody has a perfect story. If
Nobody has a perfect story. Right?
Exactly. Nobody has a perfect story. So here's a question for you, or should I say us, Abba. Ooh, what? You are way. Oh my goodness.
Oh, is that Jane?
That is EJOD.
Yes,
Yes,
welcome. Gosh, thank you. You again, Jane is one of our contributors.
yes,
Wrote a
yes.
beautiful, powerful letter for anybody
Mm,
who's wondering what your purpose is.
yes,
She's saying just live
yes,
and be yourself and be your best self.
yes.
Well,
Oh my goodness.
I can't even tell you how I'm excited for people to read your chapter, Jane.
Yes, yes.
Wow, I'm
Oh.
just of the coast of Italy. I'm coming. I'm coming.
I know, right? I wish I would go. She says, Facebook user says, I greeted you. I am watching from Imperial Polk County.
I know.
Hello. Hello, Facebook user. What is your name?
Dr. Vivian.
I
I
know.
got you
I'm
first,
just
Dr.
being
Oh,
funny
either
with
Vivian
her.
or Millicent, but I think it's Vivian.
I know. And then we also have another Facebook user who is watching from London during her lunch break or his lunch break. Can't stay for too long, unfortunately. I think something is going on with Facebook, because suddenly it's just Facebook user, and a lot of people, so we can't see your names.
Your
So please
name.
tell us your names.
Maybe
I
they're
know.
the Hope Monger community. Jane, I'm coming. I'm
Awesome.
coming.
Sis, yeah, I know. I know. Why is your name that? I knew that would be Juliet because she's always the one going. I know. Lady Juliet, it is wonderful to see you as always. Something is going on with Facebook, but we will not say anything to them. We'll just leave them. Listen, I have a question for you. What were your favorite? I love this question. What were your favorite parts of the process? And what were the biggest challenges? We're gonna spill some tea.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, the favorite parts were the stories.
Mm,
It was hearing the stories, the interviews. I think I was mesmerized. I
mm.
was moved to tears. I fell in love with 39 people, over this past year and a
Consistently.
half. I just really did.
Consistently. Yes.
Everybody was so special.
Yes.
Everybody's
Yes.
story was so amazing.
Mm,
you know
mm,
I
mm,
admired the courage and
mm,
and the conviction with which they lived their lives, and it
mm.
made me want to be a better person.
Yes.
So I think hearing the stories was a real favorite part of it. I think seeing the book come together, that moment when we finished the first draft,
Aye.
felt so amazing. uh, that was
Mm,
definitely a high point. Yeah, seeing
mhm,
the cover come to life,
mm,
that was a high point, because the
mhm.
funny thing is that the purple cover, we weren't we didn't we among the three of us, with our designer, we didn't choose it all. We was one of
No.
the ones with the white background, and then
Mhm,
when we were posting, say, okay, let's show it to the to the whatever, post on social media to see what people think. Then as a last minute, oh, let me post the purple cover and see what people think.
mhm.
And boom, in actual facts, my daughter Elisa said, this is nice. Okay,
Yes.
right?
Yes, actually, props to Alyssa because she actually gave us the color.
Yes. Yeah.
Props to our designer for coming up with what we now refer to as a kaleidoscope. It's a kaleidoscope. Abba and I say this word very differently, which is
How do you say it?
I say kaleidoscope.
I say kaleidoscope. You say
Exactly.
tomato, I
And
say
so,
tomato.
but he started off as a key, which was had a very powerful message of unlocking the potential of stories, and then
Exactly.
slowly it evolved into a kaleidoscope,
Because
which
when we had the key, to show the
mhm,
whole key, the
mhm,
circle would have been smaller and we could
yes,
fit everybody on the first page.
yes,
So we expanded and said, this also looks like a kaleidoscope. And that's also
mhm,
a powerful imagery,
yes,
because
yes,
you have regular white lights, which light
mhm,
is amazing also in itself. But when you pass it through the prism of those lenses in the kaleidoscope, you're going to get amazing patterns,
mhm.
a mosaic of
Right.
patterns.
Yeah.
And we
Which
felt,
brings me to that same thought again, in that there's a folding and unfolding of stories, right? They
yeah,
fall into each other, build each other up again, and fold into each other. So you meet someone in the middle of a story. That story kind of seems like it got resolved. For example, okay, they finish university, but then there's another story that comes out of that folds into another story, and that's what a kaleidoscope does: is bursting light, taking light, bursting it again, absorb. It's just such a powerful image, and that's what storytelling does. Now, tell me some of
yes,
your
yes.
challenges.
The funny thing again, and when you go back to their source, which is their
Mhm,
childhood memory,
mhm,
right? It gives you such a great perspective.
mhm,
You
mhm,
know, I was listening to, or I went on social media, and this is feels like it's a completely off topic.
mhm,
But it was this author who had written a poem about what's happening in the Middle East
mhm,
with Israel and Palestine. And I
mhm.
remember she said something that I thought was interesting. She says, whoever you see is at fault depends on the time at which you are joining the story.
Yes,
And I thought
absolutely.
that is so true. If
Yes.
you join it at the point when, and I don't even start a conversation about
We're
this.
not going there, but
But
let's just
because
take the
you want to
concept.
tell a story, you'll say,
Mhm,
okay, this person's at fault, this person's at fault.
mhm,
Ultimately, humanity is suffering, though.
mhm,
It's what it is.
mhm,
But I think the point is that the prism, this going through the kaleidoscope, allows us to go to a place that is earlier than the person you see today.
mhm,
We got
mhm,
so many different perspectives about the individuals we profiled, and we
mhm, mhm,
recognized just how amazing they are. And we
mhm,
saw, if you see beauty in their lives today,
Mhm.
wait till you read their stories.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
gonna be blown away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. What were some of the challenges for you?
The challenges, oh my gosh. Okay, so we haven't shared this, but we went through having to change the format of the manuscripts
Oh,
without
many.
from one to another. And that's just the system just did something and just put so many, oh my goodness. So
The most intense 2 or 3 weeks of our lives.
at the point when we thought we were ready to just load it on
Is it?
Amazon, we have to start the proofreading process all over again.
Mhm.
And so for anybody who paid real close attention, instead of releasing the book on October the 10th, was it the 10th?
The 10th. Yeah.
It came out a couple of days later. And
Yes.
in those days, we probably slept 2 hours a night
Yes.
trying to
It was.
fix all the
Yes.
glitches in the system, and then we would load, and it would happen again, and you know,
Yeah.
only I
Yeah.
can only choose to believe that God pushed this thing through.
Yes.
Uh,
And the power of the internet really, because if we were doing this a couple of years back, this would have been absolutely impossible because our designer, for example, lives in Ghana, and being able to meet with him, I live in Minneapolis, you live in Florida, he lives in Ghana, our publisher lives somewhere else, and
Carolina,
yes, and being awake late at night, not just late at night, to the wee hours. There was one time we were up.
two
We,
nights, we're up all nights
yeah,
because
you
it was
went to work.
morning,
Yeah,
right?
you worked all day. I worked all day. We had met the morning before, worked all day, 8 hours each, maybe more, came back home, jumped on the computer, maybe around, I don't know, 10-ish. No, and then, yeah, 10-ish maybe.
Yeah,
Then we wanted to wait for our designer to wake up, so we slept for 2 hours, if I remember correctly.
yeah,
Woke up around 1 a.m. ish
yeah.
because then it would be about,
Met
yeah,
and then worked through the night.
met through with him, and then by the time I looked out the window, it was legitimately 5 o'clock, and this was on a day that to my younger self was happening. Literally jumped in the shower,
Yeah,
brushed my teeth,
yeah.
came back and sat here and did that.
And that was at the back of spending sleepless nights editing the thing in the first place.
Yes,
And then this
yes,
happened. But
yes,
shout
and
out to John Yanni of
yes,
Multipixel
yes,
Studio,
yes,
who's our designer. And then
yeah,
there's another young man, I don't know his last name. His name is Rohit. And
mhm,
Marge, he also
yes,
was towards the back end of the process. Again,
yes,
I remember working diligently, through to midnight,
mhm,
hoping that, okay, when it's 1 a.m.
yes,
our time, it's
mm,
5 a.m. in India. Or what
yes,
it's morning in India. And so then he
mm,
would get the manuscript and then do what we need to do, like quick, 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 quick.
yeah.
There was a
It
day
was,
on the
oh
day
man,
we just split the manuscript into three parts. And this is like
uh,
several times. It's like, you take this, you take
you take that, and
part.
it was the the waking up in the morning and seeing literally sometimes like 173 messages, and it's like coming at you. You didn't even open your eyes properly yet, and your brain is going like, oh my goodness, it truly was a lot. And again, at this point, at least I know Abba and our publisher Margie March. Shout out to this incredible woman. They've met, but between the three of us, Margie Marge, myself, and Abba, we've never met or like that. But we're on computer doing what we needed to do. Marge is on the phone with us. Sometimes she would come onto my on computer with us, and some days the conversation truly did get heated. It was not without that. There
That's
was some things we were just like, no. There was difference of
strong personality,
opinions.
right?
Yes,
It
because
takes,
all of us, yes,
and so you
and
know certain things, and and also too, it's interesting because you have a strong personality, all of us. I mean, but then under stress, the personality even becomes even stronger.
yes,
So it was like,
yes.
oh,
But then it's funny how under stress, for example, and this is real tea, Abba becomes more vocal under stress. I just go quiet, like quiet. I say nothing because I am doing that to my teeth and just saying absolutely nothing. And then after a while, Abba comes back and says, "Sis, are you okay?" And in my mind, I'm like, "Do not ask me that. You know I'm not okay."
But then I'm like, the show has to go on. We
Yes, let's push
out.
through.
It's gotta happen. So I'm pushing through.
One of
Challenge.
the things I remember telling Uncle Ben was, you know, the funny thing is we hardly ever left any of these meetings without saying, "I love you, sis. Have a good day." No matter how terrible we may have been feeling about that each other in that moment, it was still, we knew where the ball was, right? Our eyes were on it. We knew our weaknesses and our strengths because we all had them. But we still would get off the conversation, even if the I love you was like a grudging one. Like, yeah,
I love
fine,
you.
whatever. I love you.
I love you.
Yeah, bye. I love you.
No, we never did that. We never did that.
We actually never did that, but we still said that. And even in those sometimes disagreements, we still had personal issues going on. And so we would still remember to ask, "How is this part of your life going? How is that thing going? Did you decide to do this? Did you, and all those things were playing out in real time in front of us,
Yes. Yes.
and I think for me, it is one of the realest relationships I have ever experienced because, um, or the most mature, even honestly, because it, there were intense emotions, but it was also, I know the importance of what we're doing,
What we're doing
you
is
know.
bigger than our egos.
Yes, it's
Bigger
so,
than
it's bigger than us.
ego. I don't even mean in terms of arrogance, but in terms of
Yes,
I'm hurt and this, that, and that.
yeah.
It was bigger than that,
It
and
was bigger than that.
we had
And
to.
we just kept it moving. And sometimes it was between us and March, and we just kept going on. Now, I wish there were sometimes we had thought to record it, but thank God we didn't. But you should hear March and Abba and I in a very heated, not bad heat, but good heated conversations, because that's what grown women do. All the cards are on the table. We say what needs to be said, but with respect.
Absolutely.
Um, we
Absolutely.
are we don't hold back our emotions, so to speak, in that space, but we don't let it spill over. To be honest, after we've had the conversation, I remember we just kind of move on. We
Yeah.
just like, yeah, I got to go to work. I got to do this. I'll call you at this time. Please remember, between this and that time, I won't be available, but I'll talk to you when I get off work. Same for you. Listen, I have this, I have that. It was just go, go, go. We did not have time to be petty. There
Yeah.
was no
No,
pettiness.
no, so true. And
Yeah.
it reminds me of one of our contributors, Mamia
Mm.
Fon Elbert
Yeah.
Sai. She
Yeah.
has a philosophy she calls it the whole woman philosophy. She says, I
Mm.
bring the whole of who I am to the table. I'm not
Yes.
compartmentalizing my life.
No.
And
Yeah.
that's what we are, right?
Mhm.
We brought the whole of who we were.
Mhm.
And we had these vulnerable conversations,
Yeah.
difficult conversations, but then we
Yeah.
moved on and said,
Yeah. And there were a few times where literally the physical anatomy of being a woman just got in the way. I would just be, man, I have such cramps. I need to take this ibuprofen, and my voice is that way. I'm a woman.
I didn't have cramps, but I had hot flashes. But
And then it was
it's all part
is it hot? Hot in here, and I'm going, I have cramps. This is, oh my God, I have a headache.
yeah,
Oh, my body is so tired. All of it was on there. We weren't trying to be like, I'm a superwoman. It was all on there. There was empathy for each other,
yeah,
even when we were kind of somehow a little kind of mad at each other, because that was bound to happen.
What
Anyone who tells
happened?
you that didn't happen, not just with us, anyone collaborating, it's like you're married. I feel
And
like
I, and I think this is an important point to make, because one thing we're trying to push is to encourage people to collaborate.
yes,
Of
and
course,
know what to do while collaborating.
of course, you'll have clash of
Yes,
personalities, but
yes,
understand that when you collaborate, right,
mhm,
the sum is greater than the parts, the individual
yes,
parts.
yes,
I am
yes.
one person, Zoe
Mhm.
is one person, but I truly believe that together we are 10.
We really are
With
better.
March,
Yes.
we are
Mhm,
30. You
mhm.
know, with all
Yeah.
our collaborators, we can move forward. So
Yeah.
because it's so important, the
Mhm.
different viewpoints,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
of looking at this book, it was so
Mhm,
important to
mhm,
bring this book, to
mhm.
the market.
Yeah. To
And
to
to
market.
answer Sharon's message, yes, we are better equipped. I think one thing we did well was we put systems into place, because there was a lot of
Or
movement.
rather, Abba put systems in place. I came along. Let's just put it out there.
There were a lot
Not that I
of
didn't know what to do. I,
yeah,
well, sometimes I honestly didn't. But this, I understood the process of the systems that she was doing. But yes, there was a lot of systems
you
that were
had to
put in
do it. You
place.
have 39 people.
Mhm,
We're hoping to get current photographs, younger photographs from each one. That's like what, 74 potential
mhm,
photographs.
mhm.
We're managing schedules for the interviews.
Yes.
You know,
Mhm.
we're just making sure that things were in place. Sending out emails. Have we sent out this? So there was a lot of
A lot.
uh, underlying structure that needed to be put into place, and
Mhm.
it helped us. So I think yes, when the time comes for volume two,
Yeah, we would definitely. And
it,
let me tell you guys, though, it wasn't like we had all day to do this. Okay. Abba had things she was doing, there was travel involved. Um, I was taking some classes at some point. In fact, I was working two jobs, right? Remember that?
I do. I do.
I was working two jobs at some point, um, juggling that and
Mhm.
then listening to transcriptions, and it just was a lot. And so sometimes friends will call you at this particular time and they would say, I never get you at this time. Now, there were other people that you couldn't just say to them, I'm writing a book, right? And so you just say, oh, yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm normally fast asleep by then. Of course, I'm not fast asleep. I'm doing something, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah.
Um, Listen, there was one day I literally finished the meeting with, this is funny. Got dressed, did everything. Do you know I got to work and realized I had my shirt on backward?
But
Literally.
that, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. I have
Had
many.
my shirt, didn't even notice it. I was just, and even the person that's in charge of where I worked at one point, she says, "You're always coming in at a particular time," because I was one of the I like literally drive in, put it in park, jump out, and I'm like, no time to breathe,
Yeah.
and that was
Yeah, that was tough. That was really tough. And I think that, the point was we added 2 hours to our work day for a
yeah,
year and a half, and that was a
yeah,
lot. And
that was a
even in
lot.
those, when we talked about the trying to, when the glitches came in the manuscript, and we had to proofread
Mhm,
and staying up all night. And I remember
mhm.
those 2 nights, maybe don't I pulled off my hairnet
Oh yeah,
hair because I work from home. I do
mhm.
virtual therapy.
Pulled
Da-da-da-da,
it off.
onto
And then
Zoom.
there was a point, there was a neck brace. We had just gotten so comfortable with each other, and the computer I was using didn't have a camera. But if you could see me, I was in a robe, right, with a big scarf on top of my head. I had the weirdest looking glasses. There was just
Yeah,
no time to be cute
yeah, yeah.
because we knew what it is. It's like a mother who has a child, a newborn baby. Honestly, you really have no time to be cute
It,
unless you have like house helps. In this particular scenario, that would be a big publishing, not like, yeah, like if it was a prepaid, here's 50,000, write a book, right? This was a little different. We were pulling each other along for a very long time. And then thankfully, our publisher jumped in at some point, and then it became Yes, big sis, that's exactly what it was. Blood, sweat, and tears
That's what
behind the scenes.
yes, it
I
really
think for me, vulnerable moment again here. I did have quite a few tears, but it was tears of frustration because sometimes, because I'm a new author, I genuinely didn't understand what we were doing for sometimes, and I genuinely didn't also want Abba to think, what a dummy, even though I know she wasn't going to think so. I was really trying so hard to hold it together. And so maybe she would say something, I don't get it, but I would say, okay. And then after I would go and try to read about it and figure it out so that I don't look stupid the next time because I literally didn't know what was going on. Um,
it
it
was
was,
it was a baptism by fire, and I think
yes.
having had an
Yeah.
experience of writing a book
Mhm.
prior to this,
Yeah.
this was hard because it
Yeah.
wasn't just about us. It was
Yes. It was about
about
39 other people
exactly.
who every once in a while would ask, where are you guys
You
now?
guys, how's it going?
How is it going? Do you think you would launch the book in
Yeah.
so time? You
Because
know,
honestly, I think we felt so. Well, I don't know what the term to use. When we started in
mhm.
April, what did we say? I think we said, "Oh, we thought maybe 6 months, boom, 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 we'll get it or something."
Yeah, we were like, oh yeah, March. By March we'll be done, which was the past March.
And so, interestingly enough, our email address for this project is Letters of Hope 22 because we really thought, oh, we'll
We'll
write.
be done in 22. Yeah, in 22. It took so much more work than that. And so I think we're sharing these for you guys so you understand that um, it comes with a lot of intentional hard work,
Yeah,
an intentional realization that of again, I have to keep using that phrase, keeping your eye on the ball. And I'll tell you another dear friend of ours. Listen, we this book is a product of a big village. Honestly, big village. One of our biggest supporters has been another author, Rosamond Sapon Owens. Um, and I wasn't even talking about the book. I hardly ever talked to her about the book at all. But I was going through something personal myself. I mean, guys, if we told you some of the things we went through, you would just go, what? Personally. So I was going through something personally, and Auntie Rosie is one of the people that really held me in those seasons of the things. And Abba, of course, I remember one time driving to a parking lot of Target and just calling Abba and just letting it go. It was anyway. And so I'm telling her all these personal things, and then she says, Zoe, I know you're going through all of this, but where is the ball? Where is it? And I said, well, this is my thought. This is where I'm going. This is what I want to see. And she says, then everything else is a distraction. Leave it. Don't carry it with you. It hit me like a ton of bricks. And I think in that process, that's what both you and I did. We just knew where the ball was. We knew exactly what we were doing, and we just got on with it. We just got on with it. And for every person out there who wants to collaborate, and I do think you should collaborate, I'm looking for filmmakers to collaborate with. Um, this is why Africa is now moving forward because we all want to do it on our own. It's impossible. If you know any film history at all, Steven Spielberg did not do it on his own. James Cameron did not do it on his own. What's the guy who did Psycho? I forget his name now, but he didn't do it on his own. There's a lot of collaborations going on. Those who did Wakanda didn't do it on their own. Woman King, um, uh, Viola Davis didn't do it on her own. There's a bunch of women that came together, form a collective, and did something. And at this point, I think I should say something for our Hope family. My goodness, what a support. Amma Duncan, Elsie. Today I have to say Elsie because this is not just familiar, it's powerful. This is Elsie Dixon. Oh my God, Ellie Kim, and of course, Margie Marge. I think it's a collective of hope.
yeah,
And we just
Yeah.
Every time we would post something, Amma Duncan is in the group going,
And
"Oh my God,
the
there's an
joy,
anointing."
the joy they showed when we said, "Oh, the book is, almost
Mm,
out." I was like,
mm.
"Wow, they're as happy as we were for us."
Yes, because they were there at the conception and they're now here seeing the fruition of it. You know, what was honestly my message, my heart for Africa, for Ghana, for women. Let's collaborate. Let's keep our eye on the ball. What do we want to see? Marge is always saying that there is room enough at the top for all of us. If Abba is winning, guess what? I'm winning. If I'm winning, guess what? Abba is winning. So is Amma. So is Dr. Vivian and Sharon. We're winning.
And Zoe, perhaps an idea for you is to do a show one day with
Mm,
some people who have collaborated to get them
mm.
to talk about the things to think about, because
Yes.
uh, there has to be synergy,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
In the missions. And I think there's different types of collaboration. Is somebody
Yeah.
coming to do just one part? Are we doing
Mhm,
the project together? How
mhm.
are we, what kind of contracts are we having with each other
Yes.
regarding
Yes.
even the
That was
financial?
another big realization, right? Because
Yeah,
we went in as friends.
yeah.
Listen, you just can't do that.
You
But
should
even
you
in that,
shouldn't do that because you
mhm,
don't want anybody to feel shortchanged.
yes,
So maybe
yes,
one day you can do a show, or
we
Margie does a
can.
show, and bring in
Yes,
some people who've collaborated effectively to talk about
mhm,
some
mhm,
important things to think about.
yes. The legalities of it all.
The legalities of it all, the interpersonal aspect of it
Yes,
all, the
yeah. And I
financial.
remember one time Abba said to me, she says, "Sis, I love you." This was during one of the discussions we were having, and
Our tough conversations, yeah.
we've had some very tough ones, believe me. And Abba said to me, "Sis, I love you so much. I'd rather have you than and lose this.
The project, yeah.
Rather, I'd rather, I don't think so. These are some of the
Was
things.
help to reset us because
Yes.
for us the project was important too. So
Mhm. Yeah.
therefore, personal
Yeah.
differences had to be
Yeah.
set aside
Yes.
so that we
Yes.
rise up again and
Mhm.
continue the
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jane, you're right. We did persevere to our credit, but really to the credit of God. The one thing that Abba and I consistently did was pray,
Mhm.
even when we weren't kind of feeling each other. We still prayed.
Every
Um,
day,
every
every morning
Yes,
when we
before we
together,
started, and most times after we ended a
we
chapter.
finished the chapter, we would pray for the
Mhm.
person we just wrote about.
Yeah, yeah,
Pray for them.
yeah. The other thing that um, there were sometimes I was so mad at God. Just personally, we would just get on and out, and Abba would say, "Sis, do you want to pray?" And I'll say, "Nah, man, I'm good. Just go on. I I don't feel like praying. Nah, I'm good." And she'll just jump on and pray because she knew some of the things I was going through. It's just been,
And we also went through a season two when we were doing our declarations, affirmations
yes,
for
we did
us.
affirmations
Well,
and
we grew spiritually, we
yes,
grew in
yes,
terms of,
yes,
you know, um, I don't know, being an author, learning, whatever the
yeah,
term is for that.
yeah,
We grew
yeah,
personally, we grew as
mhm,
sisters, even though the
yes.
funny thing is you call me your sister, but my husband's your uncle. Go figure that one out.
Ayo, Uncle Eddie for the win. Marge, you are right. We will be on Humanity Chat anytime you invite
Just
us.
let us know.
Yes,
Just let
please
us know.
let us know when, and we'll be there. But yeah, you're right. And then, funny enough, fun fact, we found out on the day of launch that our younger sisters actually look alike. How
Yes,
crazy is that?
yes, yes,
Literally just look
yes.
alike.
You look and you're like, wow, interesting.
Yes, and we got on the phone with Abba's dad because we had our fathers on the book too. I think Abba, we should. I'm gonna read a little bit of Gramps, your father's uh, letter, and then you can read a little bit of my father's.
Oh
But
my
before,
goodness,
yeah,
yes.
but before we do that,
Somebody.
yeah, but before we do that, I remember talking to Gramps. Your father, and he says, "I am so proud of my daughters, my daughters." And then my dad was in the comment section on the day off, and he was just writing, I am so proud of my daughters. We gained fathers.
We gained fathers. We
We
did.
gained
We
fathers,
did. We
you
did.
know.
We
And
did. Mhm.
my dad, every time on the phone with my dad, he's going, how's Abba doing?
Oh,
You know, but you know what I mean? It's like one of those things that just kind of happened. Our families are slowly becoming like, you know what I mean? My brother William is saying, oh yeah, Abba responded, I know you were asleep, or things like that.
that is so cool. And then I remember sending you a video once of my parents.
Yes, watching my youngest self.
Oh, Zoe's on. Zoe's on. Come on, watch this.
So there's so many facets of this, like it just goes into
Yeah.
it seeps into your life, and it's just one of those. Big Sis says one day you'll write a letter to your younger selves about this season.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
And I don't know about you, but I haven't shared this part with you because we've been so busy. But different younger messages for me have come up to my younger self.
Me too.
One of them
Yes.
being, don't take your body for granted. Don't take your body for granted. The way you understand that you need to nourish your body, rest your body. That's one of my things. So many things have come up for me. It's been therapeutic. Like you can't believe. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so we're gonna jump on. I'm gonna read the preamble. For those of you who don't know, Ambassador Andah Cato, just Google him. It's just so much easier. So I won't read the part that we wrote about him. I'm gonna read his preamble, and then it should spur you on to buy the book and then read his letter to his younger self, because it's really, really good. And then maybe, Abba, we can switch it and you would read just the letter of my dad. I don't know.
Yes.
But let me read the preamble. Anand writes, in 1963, my last year at the University of Ghana, I was unclear about the profession to follow. Two significant events steered me towards my career in the public service. I was elected vice president of the National Union of Ghana Students that year, and I was invited to attend 2 meetings in Boston, USA, or Montreal, Canada. At the main conference in Montreal, my speech spoke strongly about the disquiet among Ghanaian students concerning some of the government's education policies. My message was well received, and I was impressed with the turnout of students from many countries. I made a number of friendships. It was enjoyable. The statement I made was given wide coverage in the Canadian media. The Ghanaian High Commissioner in Ghana must have cited it and sent a report to Accra. Chai, choking man. And so upon my return to Ghana, I was approached by Ghana's special branch officials. We all know who the special branch people are, right? The consequence was that I was instructed to report once a week at the Legon police station. I was alarmed, but I complied with the order. After a number of interventions led by the then Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Corner Cruz O'Brien, it sounds like a white guy. Anyway, Caucasian, never mind. I was given my freedom after 3 months. A mishap was avoided. As the end of my final year neared, 3 officials from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs came to the campus to interest willing students in the work of diplomacy. I attended the briefing and was hooked. A few weeks later, I received my appointment to join the Foreign Ministry. After a year's diploma course at the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Affairs, I was awarded a certificate in public administration and diplomacy, a requirement for the appointment. I looked forward to launching my career. I was posted to the African Affairs Secretariat, a branch of the Foreign Ministry located in Flagstaff House, the office of the President. President Kwame Nkrumah directed the work at that office. There was no room for complacency. We worked hard and we learned a lot. 2 years after that, I was posted to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, the headquarters of the Organization of African Unity. But before I took up this appointment, something dramatic happened. I was assigned to accompany a ministerial delegation led by the then Minister of Information, Mr. N.A. Welbeck, to Freetown, Sierra Leone. I did not know the nature of the mission. I was the secretary. Welbeck conveyed Nkrumah's message of greetings and support to Sierra Leone's Prime Minister Albert Margai. However, the Prime Minister seemed unimpressed by Nkrumah's message. He complained about the activities of some of Nkrumah's aides in Freetown, which he flatly characterized as subversion. Welbeck denied the allegation. Prime Minister Margai's message to President Nkrumah was that the latter should desist from such activities because they did little to help the quest for African unity and cooperation. He spoke about his admiration for Nkrumah and his commitment to cooperate with Ghana in furtherance of the achievement of African unity. Back in Accra, when the delegation met with Nkrumah to submit its report, Welbeck reported that the meeting with the Prime Minister had gone well and that Margai appreciated his denials. He omitted any mention of Margai's main message from Nkrumah. My displeasure must have shown on my face because Nkrumah asked me directly whether I had anything to add to Welbeck's report, and I blurted out Margai's message in totality. That's my grandpa, yeah. That did not sit well with Welbeck because as soon as we left Nkrumah's office, he pointed his finger at me and told me to look for a new job because I was to be dismissed. Mercifully, the dismissal did not happen, but the lesson was learned about the importance of strategically choosing appropriate communication channels to deliver critical messages. Shortly after Welbeck's threat, I flew to Addis Ababa to take up my duties. 3 weeks into my assignment, Nkrumah's government was overthrown in a coup d'etat. My world came crashing down. Had I made a mistake in agreeing to join the Foreign Service?
Wow.
You must get the book
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
read it.
Yeah.
And
And
nuggets.
let me just say a couple of things about my daddy's essay. This 84-year-old man hand wrote his story.
And you had to type it.
Yeah, and had somebody type it, thank God. But he actually told 4 stories, or 5 maybe. He talks about being a student government leader and almost being jailed, therefore having to report to police station, for 3 months, once a week. He talks about how the Foreign Service came and did an information session, and that's then opened up his path to his profession. He talked about almost being fired, right, as a young diplomat because he spoke his truth in the way he knew how. And I think that's a lesson anybody who knows him will say. He's very circumspect in what he shares with his mouth. He knows how to say what is appropriate for the audience. And one thing he didn't say in the letter is that when he blurted that thing out, and Nkrumah, Welbeck, the minister, who said, look for another job, he actually did this.
You're done.
Like,
You're curd. Yeah.
And then again, the 4th story he shares is as a young diplomat who was posted to Addis Ababa and Nkrumah was overthrown 3 weeks into his appointment and he was shattered.
Yeah.
In this case, I said, Zoe, the man's letter is long. I'm not cutting it. The 84-year-old man took time to write it, right?
Because we were looking for ways to cut it, but we didn't. Yeah. We're going to jump on so you can read Daddy's letter.
Absolutely. The amazing letter by Galileo Assam Akom. Man, this letter gave me goosebumps, gave me tears. So he starts out this way. He grew up before him like a tender shoot and like a root out of dry ground. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. And that's from Isaiah 53. And then Galileo says, this Bible verse, I'm sure, has several interpretations, but I see it just as the words are. There was nothing in my appearance as a boy in the desert lands that would have made anyone desire me. The environment was hostile, and the opportunity to grow was almost non-existent. There was no room to dream, let alone prosper. I am a father who absolutely loves my children. However, as a child, that idea of love was scarce. I cannot remember if I had any aspirations or any inspiration at all. My hometown was just the place I was born. but I do have very fond memories of it. At least once a day, I had something to eat. Whatever the source of the food was anyone's guess. But I was no stranger to sometimes going to bed hungry. I have grateful memories of the share fruits. Occasionally, I'd satisfy my hunger by feeding on the share fruits. Clothes were rare and footwear a luxury. I remember my first ever dress, and it has it in brackets. I call it a dress for a reason. It was made for me with proceeds from share fruits, which my aunt sold in the markets. She bought a fabric and gave it to a tailor who was not told the gender of the beneficiary of the attire. So they sewed a girl's outfit. The dress was given to me by my cousin who was a girl. I don't remember how long it took to get an attire of my own, but it was a while. In my mind, I was grateful if I had anything to wear. As hopeless as the situation was, faith saved me long before I truly understood what it meant to live in the pauperized hamlet. Mind you, it is now a slowly growing village. The first school, about 10 miles away, had just been inaugurated, and children were being scouted to attend. Colleagues who had the initial opportunity to attend ran away, but fate roped me in, and that is how I ended up the only well educated person from my family and the whole village for a very long time. They say I'm a beacon of hope. I'd like to think God helped me, even at that age, to understand that studying was not merely for myself. I didn't quite know it then, but I carried the dreams of my families on my shoulder, of my family on my shoulders. And so each book I opened, each exam I passed was a step closer to that for that which I carried. I live by this principle. Tireless efforts, sprinkled generously with God's felt favor, can prove to anyone that poverty cannot imprison the human spirit. Enlarge your house, build an addition, spread out your home, and spare no expense, for you will soon be bursting at the seams. Your descendants will occupy other nations and resettle the ruined cities. Fear not, you will no longer live in shame. Do not be afraid, there is no more disgrace for you. You will no longer remember the shame of your youth. That's Daddy Galileo quoting Isaiah 54. He says, the above verse sums up my convictions. And so, yes, it was a very difficult childhood and young adulthood. But I always knew I wanted to enlarge my house and I wanted my children to have a better chance at occupying spaces no one thought their lineage would allow them. And so, when I look back at my youth, it's not with shame, but with extreme gratitude. That's Daddy Galileo Akom, Zoe's father. Man, you need to read the whole chapter. You just need to read the whole chapter.
Yeah.
Imagine as a young child having the wisdom to know that I am carrying the dreams of my family.
Actually, he says he didn't know it then. He didn't really know it then. He just knew that he had to study. He just wanted to.
He sensed
Um,
that there was something
yeah, there
that
was something there. But I think the beautiful thing, though, is that he doesn't leave out his destiny helper, and we all have one, whether we acknowledge it or not. We all have one, and it's the destiny helper that allowed him to go far. The point is, this book is filled with different perspectives. Just as you heard our fathers, they seem to have come from different worlds. That's what it looks like on the surface, because one had a diplomatic career and all that. But when you really dig deeper, you also realize that Grandpa Archin had some of the same situations as my father did growing up,
growing
right?
up.
And
Absolutely.
even though it seemed like my father's upbringing was a little pauperized and all that, um, you would also notice or realize that the way he carries himself, the way he talks, is that of a complete diplomat. Where
Mhm.
did you get that from?
Mm.
Right? And Abba, if you would remember, um, y- y- yes, Rachel, just so powerful. But one of the things that we learned about from these conversations, because we had to like really do some spycraft shenanigans to get our fathers to actually
Oh, yeah. Can I share mine?
yeah, but let me finish this thought. Was we did some things, but um after we presented the letters to at least my father, and he saw what we were doing, and he added on his own edits and stuff, boom, stories from nowhere started to just
Mm.
spring up.
Mm.
And suddenly this normally very quiet, very tight-lipped person who would not talk about his sufferings for any reason, because I think in his mind, what's the point? I'm here now.
Yeah.
Opened up and just started to tell stories that literally blew my mind. For example, the origin of our name, our last name, the fact that my last name is actually my father's first name. The meaning that I used to think was my father, the meaning of our last name is entirely different from what my father tells me about the first name and how he got the name. The stories were many and varied and ridiculously mind blowing. Point being, just because we wrote it, suddenly there was a burst, a floodgate, and our fathers just started to tell us stories that we didn't know before.
Yeah.
And personally, for me, I just felt even more love for my dad, but I also just felt closer to him
And
just because of the
that
stories.
you
Yeah.
make a point, Zoe, that
Mm,
number one, stories will also always unfold into other stories. It opens up our spirits, and you are able to bond with your loved ones in a
mm,
way that you never have before. That's why
mm,
even in working relationships,
mhm,
once there's an area of vulnerability, I share what I'm going through or
mhm,
I share what's going on in my life. It allows
mhm,
people to work together better.
mhm,
So, number one, when you open up and share a story, it will
mhm,
fold to another story and to help us actually form
mhm,
better, loving bonds with our loved ones. It's a
mhm,
powerful thing and
mhm,
gain wisdom and purpose for our own
mhm,
lives.
mhm.
So powerful. Yes. Yes, Uncle
Wow.
Galileo, it was
Yeah,
an amazing story, and I can't get over what he says here. He says, uh, poverty cannot imprison the human spirit. And that's
the
a reminder,
mind,
nothing we go through can imprison our human spirits.
hope,
And I think actually he summed up the spirit of the book. It doesn't
hope.
matter what you go through, it cannot imprison the human spirits.
Only your mind will do
Only
that.
your mind will. So let's reset, let's reframe, let's readjust your thinking.
Yeah.
Let's change that mindset.
Mm,
That's what those 39 people did.
mhm, mhm.
So,
Now, tell the story of Grandpa, how you got the story, real quick, and then we would have to
oh
unhook.
yes, so yeah,
Would
so,
have
so
to unhook.
I asked him to write it, and he didn't give me any pushback. He wrote, right? I just told you it was a shared 4 stories. But I said, Grandpa, the second stage is interview. He
He
said, no.
said, "Absolutely not." I remember that. No.
He said, no. I said, I'm done. And the one thing about my daddy is he's very resolute. If he says no, okay. I have questions. So I said, okay. So we left it a few months.
Mhm.
And I traveled to Ghana. And I realized this man, I'm just going to time him because my father, he's retired, at 84. And in the evenings, around, I think it's 6 or 7, I'll sit with him and my mom, my stepmom, and then they'll bring us fruits and then we'll just eat and chat. So my stepmom actually wasn't there at that time. So they brought us our fruits and we're eating. Like, I just began to ask him questions and I was recording. He answered everything. So when I finished, I said, "Oh,
Surreptitiously.
I said, Daddy, I recorded you. This was the interview. Why did you give me such a hard time?" And then he began to laugh, you
Mm,
know. So
mm.
yes,
Yeah.
pockets will
Such
never
a
hold you
powerful.
back. It is the
Yeah, it
mind.
is the mind. It really is.
And
It really,
nothing we
really
go
is.
through, nothing we
Yeah.
go through, no
Yeah.
struggle,
No
no,
struggle. Yeah.
people mistreat you, people
Hmm.
mishandle you,
Hmm. It
nothing
doesn't matter.
in the
It's
human
what you think
mind.
about yourself.
The
And
moment
you
the
know,
mind is imprisoned is when we lose.
Yeah.
Finish.
So recently, we were talking about something, and we as a family, we said something like, "Oh, Dad, as for that embassy, yeah, when you go there, they give you some cache. They don't really give people visa." My father had this. It's like his face was set like a flint. He just said this. He says, "There is no embassy in this world that can deny me a visa. No embassy."
Wow.
He said it with such conviction and such, my mind is set. There is nothing about me that makes anybody think I'm going to reject you. Nothing. I learned so much from that, and knowing how that man can enter a room and literally command the room without saying one word, So that Abba is frozen, but we're gonna try to kind of just we're unwrapping right now. We're gonna just try to put my brain froze. The link of the book on Amazon for those of you who are in Ghana. It's on. We have a dedicated delivery and like a delivery system that would bring you the books. We'll put all of that in the comment section.
Yes.
And please do not forget to send in your reviews. We thrive on those reviews. We just shared the collaboration process, and we want to give back to our community. The only way we can do that is if the reviews keep coming in. So please do us a favor. Go into Amazon and put your review there, your unvarnished review. I know a lot of you have got the book. So please leave a review. Like Mohaj always says, even if it's one word like this, like great book. And if you like Mohaj always says, even if please just go ahead and leave a review. We have to leave. It looks like we're rushing you, but we really are not. It's just that we kind of have to. This is what we're talking about. Collaboration meetings are happening in the back, right? But tomorrow we'll be on Mr. Beyond's Africa Let's Talk, so we can talk more about some of the stuff we went through. We'll share the details and the flyers on all of our social media platform. And yes, Abba just put that there. This is the link. And all the great stuff, where you need to find it and all that. And guys, my name is ZoeBaraka. Today, I don't think I have the time to acknowledge everyone we normally acknowledge, but we love you. For those of you who send us our monthly donations and all that, we thank you so much. And we always tell you to patronize African, just patronize Africa. But this week especially, please patronize Letters of Hope to My Younger Self by the incredible Abba, Cato, Andah, and the absolutely cute, beautiful, pretty, all of us, ZoeBaraka and Abba, Cato, Andah too. So guys, we love you. We do have to leave, but we will see you next week with another edition of To My Younger Self. Thank you for hanging in here with us. Abba, do you have last words?
I do. Thank you for, supporting us during this pre-launch phase. Thank you for liking our posts, sharing our posts, commenting on our posts. We ask that you continue. We've given birth to the baby, but now we really
like a village help us raise it. Yes,
be raised to achieve its potential. So please hear us. Buy a bunch of copies, give them out. Encourage people to buy. Go buy for your alma maters, and give their libraries. We ask of you. This is a project of the heart, and we put in our everything into it. We truly believe that it will change the trajectory of people's lives. So please help us with this mission. Help us. Yeah.
We love you. We'll see you next week, and we'll see you tomorrow on Mr. Beyond's show, Africa Let's Talk. Bye.
Bye.
waje shong. Wagwa jake, waje shong. Kaja Israel, kaba Egypt, kaja Ethiopia, kaja Sudan, waje shong. Kaja Ikushima, wani me kona me waje shong. So Timbuktu, Ghana, Mali, Sumanguru, waje shong. Wagwa jake, waje shong. So Timbuktu, Ghana, Mali, Sumanguru, waje shong. Manchester key, Sumanguru, wagwa jake, waje shong. What's that to do,